evening, good afternoon. Welcome everybody to the News with Obi. I am joined today by Mr. Joe Farr. He is an attorney, a practicing attorney in New York and the state of Maryland. And for those that are just joining or coming to the News with Obi for the first time, my name is Obi Warwick, and this platform we talk about all things politics, current affairs happening in our local community and around the world. And as you all know, I've been trying to do this like every Wednesday to really help keep us informed, but not inundated with the news. So today we're going to be talking about the impact of COVID-19 on immigration. And I figured there was no one better else to talk about this than my good friend here, Mr. Joe Farr. Joe, how are you today?
Well, good evening and good evening to the listener. Thank you for having me on the show, Obi. I am doing pretty well.
Thank you so much. So for our viewers that don't know you, talk to us a little bit about yourself and how you really got into the law profession.
Well, I am a practicing attorney. We are based in Silver Spring, Maryland. For my first 6 years, I was only doing immigration, but now we've evolved and I do a lot of civil trials and litigation. That's my main focus right now. And when I do immigration, I mainly do court stuff on immigration. And how I came to becoming an attorney, I think I would say it's a childhood dream come true in the US. I am an immigrant. I was born and raised in Cameroon, came to this country when I was 26. And as soon as I came here, I started in law school. And today I'm happily practicing law.
Awesome. Congrats. So you are, I mean, there's no better person to talk about this than you. You know, you came to this country and you've actually accomplished your dreams and your goals. But I am going to really get into the topic for today, which is COVID-19, immigration, DACA, ICE, all of that good stuff. So we want to talk about that. I know our viewers will have some questions as well. And last week, the Supreme Court determined that President Trump violated the procedural rules when it comes to DACA arrivals by keeping that in place. So, and a lot of people have questions. Talk to us about the DACA program, and does the court decision mean what the court decision means for DACA?
Well, so I'm hearing two questions bundled in one. So just so for the listener can be clear, let's talk about what the DACA program is first. And now let's get to what the Supreme Court decision means for the DACA recipient. So the DACA program is Deferred Action for Childhood Arrival. It was created by executive order by President Obama back in 2012. And that was just to allow all the children that were brought in the country at a younger age to stay here without fear of being deported and allowed to work here and come out of the shadow and just be a plain old citizen. Well, I won't say citizen in the legal sense of word, but at least this is the only country that most of the DACA recipients have ever known. So most people believe that DACA has to do with people coming here illegally. I hear a lot of commentators making that comment. I disagree with that. You could have come here with a visa. Let's say you're a diplomat, your parent brought you here, but for some reason you cannot go back into your country and then let you stay here. You don't have a visa, but you're here unlawfully, because you don't have a valid status in the US. And you went to school here, you were under the age of 16 in 2012, you were enrolled in high school, well, you're eligible for DACA. And that's pretty much what my understanding of DACA is. Now, when President Trump came to the office, yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so if a parent brings their kids here and they get under the DACA program and the parent ends up getting deported, I mean, I know, can the parents still stay in the country if their kid is on the DACA program? Can you explain if there's any kind of correlation?
No, there's no correlation, right? So I'm hearing something kind of what Trump was calling baby anchor.
Right.
Even if you come here and then you give birth to your U.S. citizen child in this country, we know that U.S. citizenship is the best thing you could ever have. So if you have a child that was born into this country, but you yourself do not have a legal status, it does not give you a right to stay here. We don't fight with that. That's just completely lawful. And if you ought to be deported because somehow you couldn't succeed in gaining legal status in the US, you ought to be deported. If you don't like it, take your child with you. That's just the law. And I'm saying it as an immigration attorney. I'm not going to say that it's unlawful. That's completely lawful. But in terms of DACA recipient, parents do not have DACA. This only has to do with children. And DACA at that time did not give you a legal status, and you cannot confer to somebody else what you don't have.
Okay.
So meaning that DACA recipient cannot pass it on to the father, and you cannot shield yourself from deportation because your child is a DACA recipient.
Right.
Because they themselves are not here lawful, well, they don't have a lawful status, though they may be here legally because of DACA.
Right. Okay. All right. That makes sense. So now with the court decision, what does that mean for DACA? Will it be available indefinitely? What does that really mean?
Well, certainly not available. Definitely. Here's what happened: when Trump comes in the office, his promise is to overhaul the immigration system, to change the things, or if you wanted to undo everything that Obama ever did.
Right.
Correct. So the first thing he's looking at, well, let's check it out. Jeff Sessions comes on board and say, well, it looks like Obama started this without seeking Congress approval. Therefore, this is unlawful. Let's move it. Let's kick it out. And that's how they started to say, well, DACA is unlawful. Now, without reasoning, without following what we would call the APA, Administrative Procedure Act, they just went and buy something and say, well, from today on, DACA is no longer valid. They stopped accepting applications. If you had one at the time they made a decision to do away with DACA, then you would have been eligible to renew it, but they weren't accepting new application anymore. So that decision was challenged, and then we have a split circuit, and that's how the case ended up in the Supreme Court. And then last week, I believe, we had now a 5-4 decision with Justice Robert making a difference, joining on the liberal judges, right, justices to rule for the DACA. And then the decision does not mean that Obama was correct or that DACA is a legal thing to have or it's a legal thing to do. It just means that Trump did not follow the rules that he should have followed in coming up with the decision to do away with DACA.
What rules would that be? Well,
it's an Administrative Procedure Act, because in the government, any executive order that has to be taken has to follow a specific way. You have to give reasoning, legal reasoning.
Right.
It's a very low standard, but they fail to even meet that standard. And once you say, well, here's why we feel that this is illegal, let's just kick it out the can. That's not how government works. You got to reason your decision. You just can't come out and say, I am the president and I can do whatever I want.
Right.
If that was the case, then we back in Africa, we back in third world countries, or we back into a different kind of government. This is not a democratic government. And that's not the aspiration that we as a citizen of this country, we have. Right. So that was why the different immigration advocacy group challenged the decision. Say, well, at least if you got to say it's illegal, give us the basis. And unfortunately, because the decision was not mature, they just rushed to make the decision. They did not follow all the rules mandated by the Administrative Procedure Act, and therefore they were challenged on that. Now, the Supreme Court in his ruling didn't say, hey, DACA was lawful or DACA is legal. All they said was that they didn't follow the rules. So if the government literally wanted to do it, they could go back and rewrite the reason why they would terminate DACA and start the process all over again.
Right.
How would that play out in terms of political outcome for the president in an election year? Mm-hmm. I don't think that would be a strategic thing to do if he wants to be reelected.
So you're saying if he wants to be reelected, not doing away with DACA, is that what you're saying?
Not even trying, because I don't believe that right now it would be a wise thing to do. We're right now we're in the mid crisis. It's going to be July next week. November is the election time. We have less than 4 months to go. You got to campaign. You got to do the things that people care about. We have the economy that is in trouble right now because of the shutdown due to the COVID. So I don't think that it would be a wise thing to do for the government to be trying to do it with DACA right now.
Right. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit. When it comes to people in this country that are immigrants, they may or may not have their papers, and they're legal. Let me just say they're legal in this country. When it comes to any kind of unemployment or any kind of benefit, are they in trouble? Or if they have a green card, are they? Is there any trouble getting any kind of governmental benefits? How does that affect them getting their citizenship?
So you talk about two class of people, and then the first class of people are people without illegal status. I don't want to call them illegal or undocumented. I'm just going to call them without lawful or legal status in the U.S.
Right.
And then I compare those people to the people with green card, or maybe DACA, or maybe other status, maybe TPS. And I would say, in no case, unless you're a U.S. citizen, do we in our office, or let me correct that. In no case do we in our office advise people other than US citizen or people seeking asylum or people with asylum status, do we say if that's fine, you can go ahead and seek this benefit?
Mm.
Because asylum has a different regime. But if you're just doing a regular adjustment of the status, maybe based on marriage, or maybe because your parent is a U.S. citizen, or your child is a U.S. citizen, there's a new form. There used to be an affidavit of support from I-864. There's a new one now, I believe it's 944 something, that came out. It's a long form, and it asks you about all the government benefits you've received and whether or not you can support yourself before you can be eligible to have adjustment of status. So if you have used any public benefit, it's going to be a strike against you when you start
Right.
applying for the green card, unless you have an asylum status, or unless you're applying the green card based on some kind of refugee status. But
Right.
my recommendation would be, even though you may be eligible, stay away from it. It's less paperwork for you to do. And
Right.
you also have to show your good foot to the government. If
Right.
you're seeking status here in the US, you don't expect the government to front your fees. You can't be asking for fee waivers. You can't be
Right.
telling the government, well, I want papers. You got to prove to the government that you can work and that you can pay for your fair share of taxes.
Right.
So I would not recommend to any of my clients, including asylum seekers, to seek benefits from the government,
Right.
because it's going to be asking you, even when you time come for you to do citizenship, they're going to ask you for all those things.
Right. Right.
The
So
less you take, the less people you have to deal with.
right. So there is this talk going around, and I personally haven't researched it, that Obama actually, during his when he was president, that he actually deported a lot more people than people actually know. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. I do not have the statistics, but I don't know whether that's still correct today, because that is what was said at the beginning of the Trump presidency. So I don't have a statistic on that, and I cannot confirm it as of today. But I know that at the beginning of midterms Trump presidency, Obama had deported more people than Trump has done up until that point. I don't have the recent statistics, so I cannot tell our viewers that what I'm saying is absolutely true. But I
So
could supplement this
in terms
comment when
of Trump, in terms of Trump deporting people, have has ICE still been really going to capture people, and how legal is that? That they just go to somebody's house and take them and get them deported?
so we have to be speaking about this in terms of time frame and put everything in context. Since March, when the country went into lockdown, I haven't heard of anybody being arrested by ICE. There may be, unless you may be involved with some kind of criminal activities and then you just got caught up, then that's what ICE is supposed to do. But legitimate people that came here didn't do anything wrong, that were being arrested before COVID came in. I haven't heard a case where ICE went and just knock on the door and say, "Well, are you illegal? Come here, let's get arrested."
Mm.
I haven't seen that. In fact, if anything, it used to be that when you get arrested by ICE, or when you're coming at a border, you pay bond and you get released on bond, but you're required to check it with immigration every 30 days or every 60 days or every 6 months, depending on the condition of your bond. But since the shutdown, they suspended all of that. And at least in the Baltimore field office, what they're doing, and I say Baltimore field office because that's where our office is based. Well, we based in Silver Spring, but we mostly handle cases in the Baltimore field office. So they've extended the check-in, the reporting until September 9. So they're not going to be able to even see people until September 9. So I
Okay.
would doubt that in that case, they're going to arrest people when they told them you cannot come back here until September 9.
Okay. Okay. And what, under what conditions will ICE come to arrest somebody? I mean, besides being that they're not fully legal in the country, what are the conditions that will raise a red flag for ICE to come and pick somebody up?
Well, most of the time, it has to do with crime. Um, most people that do not follow the rules, if you get picked up on a DUI and get released the next day, then before you even stepped out, depending on whether or not there's a memorandum of understanding between the sheriff's office of the locality where you get picked up and ICE, you may not even get there. I had to drive one time 5 hours from here to Norfolk because one of my clients was picked up on a DUI charge in Northern Virginia, right there in Arlington. But they took him all the way down to Norfolk. Well, as soon as he got out, he met bail, and then before he got let out, the ICE picked him up and took him all the way down to Norfolk. So, and that happens very often. If you get picked up on driving without a license, ICE can come in and arrest you. So my message to people that don't have papers or that are here hoping to get legal status is do your best to stay away from breaking the law. And when I say breaking the law, I want to put that in context. Anything that is not law abiding, you don't intend to break the law. You don't intend to drive and run a stop sign. But somehow we know how stop signs end. You can just run a stop sign and end up in police custody.
Right.
So it's not worth it, honestly speaking. So most people would either be arrested because of a crime,
right, and then register a red flag with ICE.
Yes. Yeah. And some other people literally just got turned in. You say, well, I have somebody here looking suspicious. He looked like he doesn't have paper. He doesn't speak English. We have cases like that. Or you just get stopped profiling. ICE has done that. You go to a plant where you know they employ a lot of immigrant workers.
Yeah, exactly.
You read at the plant. So they don't do anything. They didn't do anything other than working.
Right.
Then they raided the plant and they get arrested.
So we have people that actually call in to say somebody looks like they don't have their papers?
Yeah.
Oh, so we have parents that too?
Before the shutdown again, there were also instances where you would be calling, you apply for adjustment of status, and then you get called in at the USCIS field office for an interview with your spouse. And when you go to the interview, ICE would now take the opportunity to arrest the spouse seeking status.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Now, the problem with what I've seen is that most of the time people get arrested during interviews are people with prior order of deportations.
Okay.
I am not aware of an instances where, I'm not saying it didn't happen, other colleagues may have cases similar to that, but I am not aware of an instance where somebody went there for the first time and was arrested and deported just because he wasn't lawful. I'm not, most of the time it's because of prior order of deportation that they may not even be aware of.
Yeah.
I filed a motion to reopen on a case that was sealed in 2004. He didn't know he had a deportation order. So you get picked up by ICE, then that's it.
Wow. Yeah, and for those tuning in to watching, if you have any questions for Joe, he's open to answer any questions tonight. You know, paying for an attorney is not cheap. So if you have any questions, please type them in. I'm sure he'll be glad to answer those questions. So Joe, let's talk a little bit about on Monday, what's today? Wednesday, I believe it was on Monday, that President Trump signed an executive order to suspend popular working visas like the H-1B visa. So is he saying that this is due to COVID-19? Talk to us a little bit about that and, you know, the implications that will have on companies in the U.S.
Yes, so you're correct about that. Let's look at Trump immigration policies in the context of his political move. From even before becoming president, his goal was always to reduce immigration, curtail immigration, illegal immigration, whatever. Illegal immigration, let's build a wall. Legal immigration, let's just change the policy if the wall won't stop. So limiting the H-1B visa, he said, well, this is due to COVID because the economy is suffering. Let's give priority to the people that are here looking for jobs, and let's not bring people overseas that may also be bringing disease to us, quote unquote disease. And I'm using it loosely. I'm talking about the corona. Let's just do with people that we have here. We have enough workers here. But truth be told, a lot of H-1B recipients are from India and Asian from Asia. So and some of them have skill set that we cannot just find here. There's a shortage of personnel that are qualified to do the kind of work that they do.
Right.
We have seasonal workers. We have temporary workers. Maryland crab season, Ocean City season. We have a lot of student interns that come there and work during the summer to help with the season, with the beach season, with the summer season. They can't do that anymore because of the policy. And
Mm.
let me tell you one thing: it's not just the H-1B visa that have been suspended for now. He went as far as suspending legal immigration or adjustment of or green card applicant from overseas. So if you're seeking an immigrant visa, either as a spouse of a U.S. citizen, as a child of a U.S. citizen, whatever category applies to you, and you were before COVID eligible to have a visa and then to travel to the United States, then you cannot do that anymore. You cannot do that anymore because um, Trump now has suspended until December 2020. So I am not sure we're going to have anybody coming in the US seeking with a green card before the end of this year.
Wow. So he till December 2020. So if he even if he's out of office after November, I mean they don't really leave till January. That really is still going to be in effect. Is this something that the next president can reverse once they get into office?
Remember that this is just an executive order. So the same way he signed it, somebody else can undo it. And that's why, taking us back to the DACA issue, Obama put DACA with executive order. Trump wants to undo it in an executive order. And that's why the Supreme Court says, well, no, really, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the way you went about it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And speaking of COVID-19 and immigration, we know that COVID-19 had a lot of countries closing their borders. And as of today, we are reading that the EU looking into countries that they might have on the list, which includes the US, they might have on the list of not coming into the country. How has this especially affected travel in terms of COVID-19? I know we did talk about Trump banning people like green card, people seeking any kind of green card. How does that really affect travel?
well, it's going to affect the travel industry, as we all know that this industry has been affected the most, I would say, compared to other industries. And if we go back to March, I believe President Trump was the first president to actually put ban on travel and shut down borders.
Right.
Now the EU wants to do the same thing. I believe that the US hasn't been added to the list based on my recent research before coming onto the show. It may have changed as I'm talking, but before we started this show, my reading and result of the research was that the US has been considered but hasn't been added. And then the countries that are hard hit would be banned. I'm thinking about Brazil, thinking it's a lot of countries where the mortality rate is really high. But let's not just think that this is not just the EU. Um, if you may recall, the US imposed a ban on any travel from Brazil. Or if you do travel from Brazil, you cannot come into the countries 14 days after you've been anywhere else. You have got to be quarantined for 14 days before you come to the US and
Right.
quarantine again.
Right. Right. I mean, the US did initially put some kind of ban, except US citizens coming from Europe. He did put some kind of ban coming back into the country earlier this year. And I've traveled since COVID-19 and I wasn't asked to quarantine. They didn't even ask me where I was coming from or. So I think the US needs to probably do a better job with closing their borders, which they haven't. If they feel that people coming in is really going to prevent the COVID, which I think people don't really want to come to the US at this moment.
So I haven't traveled. I haven't traveled across. I haven't traveled out of the continental U.S. I've been mostly staying home and working from home, and then even running away from our office because I don't want to be sick. But if you've traveled, kudos to you. I don't know how you managed to get on the plane with all of this, but in terms of the safety measures, I think the government should probably do a better job in terms of following people that are being quarantined, what it is that the government is doing to make sure that people are being actually quarantined. I'm saying this because I have at least two clients, one of whom was a US citizen and one of whom was a green card holder that were overseas when the order came into effect, so they were stuck there. So the government chartered two flights to pick up US citizen first and the second for permanent resident. So on the first flight with a US citizen, he was just told, okay, go home and quarantine. And the second case, the resident came into Montgomery County, and the county was telling her, "Well, you got to stay home and quarantine." But I think in her case, she was being called almost every day to make sure that she's home and she's doing what she's supposed to do. And
Right.
I'm not sure how the government can enforce that, but
Yeah.
I don't.
And just like I know, states like New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut are trying to have certain people coming in from different states. They're trying to make sure they have a 14-day mandatory quarantine. I'm not sure how that's going to work. Coming like we were talking about earlier, how if you're stopping people from Florida coming into, let's say, New York, how are you going to know they're coming from Florida? How are you going to track that? So it's going to be a little bit difficult for those states to really enforce that, but we'll see what they have in mind or how they plan to carry that out.
Yeah, but go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that with just a side comment about that. Let's not look far. When the mortality rate in New York was shooting up the roof, Florida said, "Well, there's no New Yorkers coming into the Florida Keys. We're going to block our road to them. You got to stay in your home, and we don't even want to hear about you coming here to quarantine unless you're an essential worker or the Keys a member of the Keys resident. You cannot come in here."
Right.
So now that the wheels are turning,
Yeah.
New Yorkers are now considering banning people from Florida. My question, and just asked it rightfully so, well, how do you know somebody coming from Florida, and how do you know somebody actually staying in New York with a Florida license plate? How do you determine that? I was in New York last Saturday. I went in and out. I didn't see any problem. So how do you know that I didn't come from Florida? And I had time to walk around Times Square even though it was empty.
Right.
Well, I could have spoken to any person. I could have transmitted the disease to any person. Then.
Right.
How do you make sure that?
How are you able to trace that? Right.
Yeah.
So I wanted to one more question about DACA. So can someone on the DACA program still travel abroad, or traveling is off limits for DACA people?
Well, travel is not off limit. There's a lot of questions, or there's a lot of considerations to be taken before you can answer that question. Yes, you can travel under certain conditions.
Okay.
Would you travel? Would I recommend somebody with DACA travel? Absolutely not. And here's why. When I say you could travel, we have to look into two different types of DACA recipients. There are people coming across the border illegally. When I say illegally, it's coming without a visa or going over the fence or however they do to come here. They don't have visa. If you didn't have a visa before entering the U.S., then you didn't come here lawfully. Right. And with that particular class of people, I would find it very difficult for them to be eligible to even get a permission to travel. Permission to travel is what we call a travel document. That's what you would need to apply for and obtain it before you could travel lawfully. Now, if you came here with a visa and just overstay your visa, maybe your parent decides to stay here, or they leave you here and then they go back to your country, your home country, and then you remain here with an adoptive family, but you don't have papers. The fact that you came here lawfully as a young child, you may be eligible to apply for a travel document because there's something called inadmissibility. When you come across the border with no visa, you're inadmissible to adjust the status, meaning that if you leave the country, it's unlikely that you're going to come back. It's very unlikely. In fact, even if you have somebody to sponsor you for the green card, there's still some waiver to do. There's still some kind of application to do. We call that 601 to do 601A. You have to do some waivers, and then it's a gymnastic that you have to go through to even get adjusted. You may have to leave the country and come back.
Okay.
So versus somebody that came here with a visa. So if you come here for a visa and did not overstay your visa before getting DACA, because certain people were already out of status before getting DACA.
Right.
If you did not stay, then I would say you get a permission to travel. You may travel, but here's the catch. On that travel document, it tells you that CBP, Customs and Border Protection, does not have to let you in when you come to reapply for admission.
Oh, okay. Huh.
And if they do let you in, you have to go through extra screening that would last almost 2 hours.
Okay.
Depending on the cases. Sometimes it could be fast, sometimes it could be slow, but the average time that I have seen is 2 hours, is an hour. My recent case was 2 hours.
Okay.
So my recommendation for somebody looking to have legal status in the U.S., if it was worth waiting 25 years, or actually not 25, most of them 18 or 20, if it was worth waiting that long to get DACA, I would say, just be patient. Don't try to go travel the world now. This is not the time for it, especially now that everything is uncertain. If they give you permission to travel and then you take a plane, go to Mexico, and Trump comes out and say, well, you know what? I don't care about getting reelected anymore. I follow what the APA says. DACA is illegal. We're done with it. You stop in your country because you have no reason to come. You have no business coming.
Yeah.
So it's not just because you can that you should do it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And what about, I know we talked about anchor baby earlier. What about people coming here to have their kids, have a child on American soil? I don't know. How does that really play out? I know some people have come here, have their baby, go back with their baby just so the baby's an American citizen. Is there any implications to that as of recent?
Well, what I have seen, my recent case that I handled was a client in Nigeria. He would come here often for vacation and bring his family, and oftentimes all his children were born here in the U.S., including the most recent one. But when he went to apply for a regular tourist visa, the government says, no, you can't come in unless you show us that you've paid all the hospital bills related to the birth of your last baby.
So they were keeping track.
So they started keeping track, which most people would disagree with by comment. I think to some extent we have to be fair with the government, because you are paying taxes, I'm paying taxes, and those people coming overseas, bringing the babies here, getting delivery, not paying for their fair share, going back and coming back and doing it all over again. I am not for the government to say, well, you can't do that. I'm just, if you have to do it, pay the bills. Pay the bills. So you're paying the bills. If you have a delivery, I'm still paying the bills for my baby. If you don't pay your bills, they get sent to collections, your credit goes down, your taxes goes up, all these things. So for me, I think it's a legitimate thing to ask.
Yeah.
But I don't believe that the government should say, well, you cannot come in if you're pregnant.
Yeah.
That would be challenged in court. That has no basis in my view.
Okay. So if somebody, so you're saying even if they owe these bills, it shouldn't be a basis to say you can't come in. Let them come in and figure out a way to pay the bill, right?
Well, if they don't come in, how are they going to pay the bill?
Exactly.
But we also know that you cannot say, well, now that you're sick, it's not how the U.S. works. You cannot get treatment because you've not paid the bill.
Yeah.
The question becomes, if you've been here once and you've used the system, didn't pay your fair share of the bills, we pay for those bills. So if you did not pay your bills, you still have time to fly to different places, different beaches around the world, go to Australia, go everywhere you want and have a lot of fun. It's not they don't have money. You can fly to the US, you can afford to have a pregnancy in the US, deliver in the US. They're not delivering on the street, they're delivering in homes. Right. So they do have the means to afford to certain things. I know viewers would disagree with me, but that's my sense. I think it's fair for the government to ask people coming in here to deliver babies to pay for their hospital bills.
Right. I think it's fair too. I think it's fair. And also, just so we're clear, having a child on U.S. soil does not give citizenship to the parents, correct?
Absolutely not. It does not confer citizenship on the parent or on anybody else. If you don't like it, you can take your child and go back to wherever you came from with the child. And I'm trying not to speak like the president here, but that's the law. I'm not speaking out of meanness or anything. That's the law. The child is a U.S. citizen. You have to take the child home, wait until the child is 21 years of age, and see if he can apply for you. That's when the child will be eligible.
Okay. At 21 years of age. Okay. Yes. All right. So I think that kind of covers everything that we intended to talk about today. Is there anything else that you want to add that you think will be beneficial to our viewers?
There's a lot of stuff to discover. There's a lot of things to discuss on the show. So it depends on if the viewers have questions, then I'll be very happy to answer. If they don't have questions, then they can email us. They can follow us. We have the website followgroup.com. We have a portal there that is useful, so you can email your questions there. We would be very happy to answer.
What is the
And you can also
website
email
again?
me. Fallowgroup.com. That's FAHLAW group.com. And then
Okay.
you can use our contact page. There you have our email and then our phone number. If you have questions, then you could always, we're going to be willing to answer follow-up question all this week. If the people that are asking the questions say, well, we were listening on the OB show or the news with OB, and then we have questions, then we're going to take those questions without charging a fee.
All right. See, y'all getting the hookup. They're gonna take the questions. If you use the code, the news at OV, they're gonna take the questions for free.
Yes.
And that's awesome. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Joe. And again, thank you to our viewers that are tuning in. I was hoping that a lot of my African people would tune in because you know how we need this information, but you know, we like flying on the cover a lot sometimes, but it's all good. I'm sure people can always go back and rewatch the show because the show will live on Facebook and on YouTube as well. So you can always go back and rewatch it. And thank you so much, Joe, for
Thank
being
you for having me,
on the
Louis.
show.
Thank you.
And again, if you have any questions, feel free. I've put up the website is farlawgroup.com. So please check them out and also check out the News with Obi on Facebook, Instagram, the website for all news that you might need as well. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. And
Thank you for having me.
have a good night.
You do the same. Bye-bye.
Joe, hold on. Don't leave.